Hi everyone. I'm going to do a little bit of a different video for this one. If you've watched any of my other ones, you've seen that I do, a few product reviews. I enjoy cigars. I've done a few cigar reviews. I do have a little rant that I do once in a while, which is kind of for adults only. I'm into, a variety of things, like probably most people are. And hunting is one of them. Uh, I used to have a bunch of ball cards, things like that. I don't get too much into that. Um, Radio control vehicles, stuff like that. Just little hobbies of mine. And one of the things I'm into is I don't know as if I'd call it paranormal stuff. I'm not talking about ghosts and goblins so much as I am just odd things. Out in the wilderness kind of stuff. Bigfoot, I do read books about that and I'm into that. I've never seen one. I kind of on the fence as to whether or not they're real or not. I'm leaning toward yes, and I'm sure people all call me a nut, but that's my opinion. I have not seen one, so until I see one, um, I won't commit 100% to believing that Bigfoot is 100% real. But I had an encounter when I was a child, and I wanted to talk about that. And I really haven't talked about it to too many people over the years, just for fear that I think people will think they'll laugh at me. And I do have people in my life that would laugh at me, think I'm nuts. Um, it happened when I was a child. It would have been the early '80s, and we lived out in a rural area, which I still do. I actually live next door to my parents' place now. They still live there where this event happened, and we had my dad had a few acres of property, and it's a dead end road, not a lot of traffic, and kind of lay it out for you. They have a house, and it's up probably 150 yards from the road, up on a hill, and behind it is woods. And adjacent to that is a garage that my father had put up. And at that time, back in the early '80s, my elderly grandfather lived there with us. But he lived in, I don't know if it was a camper or a small house trailer that my dad had put in for him so that he could have his own space, because he still, he needed care, but he also tried to be an independent man. And at this time, he was, probably approaching 90. So the house was situated probably about 70 to 80 feet from the wood line. There's a piece of, lawn that my dad mowed there behind the house. So if you went out our front door facing the driveway, you would, if you turn 90 degrees, look to your right, you were perpendicular to the wood line. And it was about 70 to 80 feet away from the side of the house. If you turn it about a 45-degree angle and looked over toward the garage, that's where the trailer was parked. And my dad had set it up so, he had electricity and everything, and it was parked right next to the garage, kind of tucked in there. And back in those days, my aunts and uncles used to come out fairly often, and I had a bunch of cousins. And this one set came out, and there was, I want to say, I think maybe six kids. I'm a terrible cousin, by the way. Can't remember how many there are in that group because we don't see each other much nowadays. But at the time, like the two boys didn't come. They were older. So I think three of the six kids came out that night, and they were all the girls. A couple of them were a little older. One of them was just a little younger. And of course, they were sisters. You know, they all stuck together. And we had fun time playing, running around, running around the house, running around the yard. We were all outdoor kids. So, got to be night, or, dusk, and everybody was still there. It was, probably a Saturday or something. The parents were all inside smoking, probably having a few drinks, because everybody smoked then. And the kids would go back and forth, and my grandfather was great. We loved him. And he was a typical grandfather. You go out to grandpa, and you're gonna get have cookies or cakes or apples or whatever. And I remember the camper, the trailer smelled like pipe tobacco. It was great. It brings me back to my youth, thinking about this, thinking about him, thinking about what had happened that night. Still kind of creeps me out. And you may chalk it up to the imagination of a 7 or 8 year old boy at the time, but honestly, I don't think that's what it was. I think what I saw was real. So we were going out to the camper, and I was the last in line, and the girls were ahead of me. And I'm walking up to the door, and I look over in the wood line, and just on the edge of where the woods meets the grass, there was something standing there. There was a figure. And at first I didn't really, I kind of, was wondering if my eyes were playing tricks on me as I'm looking at this thing. And I'm still I'm walking. We're walking toward this camper. And the camper was probably 70, 80 feet from the house too. So we're almost to it, and I'm looking at this thing. At first I'm thinking I'm just seeing a reflection of something, because we had a light on the side of the house that was on, just a incandescent spotlight type of thing that my dad put on there, so we could navigate that side yard if we had to go out and check on my grandfather, whatever. So it was bathing this area with the light. And I'm looking at this being, this figure, this upright standing whatever this was, and it's turning its head and it's looking at me. That's what really made me think, holy shit, this is real. This is not, this isn't this tree over here that I just didn't notice looked like that. And the best way I can describe this thing, in all honesty, as a child that age, was it looked a lot like Count Chocula on the cereal box. I don't think it was a vampire or anything like that. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. It wasn't a cartoon-looking thing. Did not look like a cartoon to me. It didn't have fangs sticking out. It was a dark figure, slender, tall. The face of it was I couldn't see it real well. It wasn't hairy. This wasn't a Bigfoot. This was something else. I don't know if this was a shadow figure. I don't know what this was, but it scared the shit out of me. And I'm trying to get up into this camper now, and the girls are ahead of me, and I'm starting to freak out. And I think they thought I was playing it. They just thought I was being whatever. Because I remember them, they kept, putting themselves in the way of the door, and they would turn around, and they kept turning around to the right. So their field of vision would have looked right at this thing too. They kept turning around, looking at me and laughing, and I honestly don't think, well, I'm sure they didn't see it, but I don't know if they could see it. I don't know if it was just something that was meant for me to see, because it was just out there in plain view. And no, it wasn't my dad, it wasn't my uncle playing a trick. I just got this feeling, and I started really getting upset. And I'm now at this point I'm crying. At this point, it's probably been 30 seconds. I'm crying. I'm frantically trying to get into this trailer to get. It's not approaching me. It's not turning. It's not walking. But it's turning its head. It's looking at me. I couldn't really make out the face very well. It was dark. That the bulb on the side of the house was enough to you know put some light on things, but I couldn't pick out real fine details other than this thing was tall, thin. It was had some kind of clothing on, and I got the distinct impression that it was only able to be seen by me. And finally, I got into the camper. They got out of the way. I bowled my way through them, and I don't remember exactly too much after that as far as I was crying. I remember some point later on that evening, though. I don't know how much time had passed. And I'm not saying I didn't lose consciousness, nothing like that, no lost time. I'm just saying I can't remember how long it was between when I got in there and calmed down and then we all left and went back into the house. But I do remember when we went and got out of there, um, I ran around the front of everybody and I got to the house first. They were all behind me because I was scared and I did not look to see if it was there. But for that minute or so, I am convinced there was something standing in those woods looking at me, and I really don't think that my cousins were able to see it. What that is, what it was, I don't know. I know it scared me so much so that I didn't speak about it to anybody for a long time, and I really only told a couple close friends. Um, Never told my parents. I haven't told my wife. So, knock on wood, I hope I don't see whatever this thing was again. But anyway, that's my story. That was how I saw it as a 7 or 8 year old child. And if you like this, give me a thumbs up. If you think I'm loony, well, maybe I am. That's it. Y'all have yourselves a great day.